My 33F boyfriend, 31M, says I am not white. I am confused about a conversation I had with my boyfriend of 2 months and I really would like to hear your thoughts on this. I am not sure if it's a minor thing or highlights a deeper issue. This morning he raised up a concern about something I said the other day. I was talking about a foundation my research group gets funding from and I mentioned, the foundation was created by this wheatly white woman. Then moved on and proceed to talk what the purpose of the foundation is. Today, a week has passed, and he wanted to have a conversation about something that really bothered him the other day, and brings up my comment described above. I was unsure about the problem and he said it really bothered him and, I am white. So I didn't like how you said the foundation was created by a wealthy white woman, that's also what my mom is. What does mentioning her race has anything to do with it? By which I responded, well, obviously I know you are white and I don't understand why this bothers you so much and that I am also white, I am from Spain, and he said that I am not white. I was very confused since I am literally pale and he said that I am not white and that I am Hispanic, which has nothing to do on whether I am white or not, only the language I speak. I guess my question is, what is this? Is what I said really offensive? I guess it's true it didn't add anything to the picture, but there is something about this convo that is rubbing me the wrong way. Thank you for anyone taking the time to read this. Is your boyfriend American? Because what to call Mediterranean people in America is a shit show he's caught up in, so this isn't so much his fault as it's a larger cultural problem that people from Spain keep having to deal with. Opening square bracket. I thought perhaps he was upset that you mentioned the woman's race at all instead of just saying it was funded by a wealthy woman, but in one of your comments you said he considers Hispanic people to be lesser. This is bad enough on its own, but if he also considers you to be Hispanic, then it follows that he considers you to be lesser. Anyone who considers some people to be less than others based on race, ethnicity or culture needs to be educated, or if he won't be educated, dumped. He's actually stupid. You are a white European. And he's a dumbass. No. What you said is not offensive. And he's dumb for confusing ethnicity and race. There is such a thing as white Hispanics. For some reason he is very sensitive about race. Honestly seems like someone I wouldn't want to be around. Spanish people are not Hispanic. I think we tend to group the Spanish language with Hispanics in general, which is wrong. Your boyfriend is a moron. Spanish people are Caucasian. I'm assuming he's American and I guess I can understand why he is confused, because people who identify as Hispanic are categorized as a separate ethnic group. I'd take some time to explain the difference to him. Is what you said offensive? No, it doesn't sound like it. Assuming there was nothing in your tone that made it sound like being white was a bad thing. First of all, you are Spanish. Spaniard, not Hispanic, as Hispanic refers to countries that were colonized by Spain. You are indeed white. He wouldn't tell someone from Ireland or Germany or Poland that they are not white based on the language that they speak. He also seems to view you as lesser than because he had such an issue with someone he perceived as Hispanic saying something non-offensive about race. Be careful. So ultimately, aside from the chaos that's ensued about what whiteness is, the borders of race are weird and change contextually and over time. No, it's absolutely not offensive to describe a person by their ethnicity or race and wealth, particularly in context of the creating of an institution. This is relevant information. It's a neutral descriptor, providing context about the foundation. To me this reads as a red flag that he might be listening to some white supremacist ideologies, that even just mentioning someone's whiteness is offensive to him. There are two issues here. One, he's an idiot who doesn't know a single thing about colonialism and race. Two, he believes white people can be victims of racism and thinks mentioning that someone is a rich white woman is an insult. This means he's racist. He might not believe he is, but underneath that comment you'll find a solid foundation of white supremacist beliefs and denial of actual racism. Sounds like your boyfriend has classic white fragility. Many white people are extremely uncomfortable when being forced to see ourselves in a racialized context. As the dominant group, white people are socialized to see ourselves as default. While what you said wasn't offensive, presenting a racial context where he didn't expect it made him feel like his assumed social dominance was threatened. It's a pretty ignorant reaction and a pretty good indication that any conversation about race is going to be extremely difficult with him. You may want to check out the book, White Fragility, by Robin DiAngelo. Your boyfriend is an idiot. People from Spain are white. First of all, Hispanic is not a race. It is a term mostly used to describe people whose country was colonized by Spaniards and are therefore Spanish-speaking, for example many countries in Latin America. People can be Hispanic and still white. But Spain itself is a European ethnicity and the people of Spain are white. Your boyfriend seems to be confusing Spain with a Latin American country. No offense to the Americans in here, but some of you seriously need to study the world outside of America. It makes most Americans sound so ignorant because of their lack of knowledge of anything outside these United States. I'm Hispanic and I'd be offended and literally go on off a rant about race, ethnicity and nationality. I'm also white and if my boyfriend suggested I wasn't, I'd set him straight. And overly indignant and protective of his white heritage. Your ethnicity is Spanish. Your race is Caucasian, so you are white. More so if you consider yourself to be a white person, who is he to come and tell you otherwise? Skeptical smiley face. And if his mum is a wealthy white woman, and why is he offended that you were talking about another wealthy white woman? Why does that hurt him? Unless he knows his mum is a bad person, why does her whiteness align with this other woman? It read to me that her whiteness was relevant to make a pic of what she looked like, her background, etc. Rather than to be offensive, he sounds silly. There seem to be a lot of white men who get super offended by any mention of race or privilege, like it's a personal attack on them. Hope you and your boyfriend can have a good talk. I also find it bizarre someone would call people from Spain not white. I thought Hispanic was Central American region. I'm Canadian. And doubly annoying, he decided to what you wish to identify as. I am white. You are not offensive. He's just a baby. People always want to be offended nowadays. You just described the woman. You didn't mention anything negative associated with our race. And my oh my, what suffering we have faced to be so sensitive about someone mentioning being white. LMAO. Just give him a box of tissues and tell him to grow up. He sounds like a sensitive little white boy that doesn't feel comfortable discussing the reality of white privilege. Woman shrugging, medium light skin tone. To be fair, I'm not white either. I went to the paint aisle at Lowe's to find my color. I'm cream in my coffee. Or Swiss coffee. I'm kind of in between the two. I think it's weird that this bothered him for a whole week. Is what you said really isn't that serious. I've found that it tends to be people with questionable views who find it offensive when someone uses race to describe someone in a non-offensive way. Wealthy white woman is a fact, not a slur. Also weird that he tried to tell you you aren't white when you are. I would personally feel weird about this convo too. Your boyfriend is a little, how do I put this? Dumb as fuck, trying to be woke and failing miserable and coming out looking like an idiot. Do you feel like you connect on an intellectual level? Do you have things in common with him? I feel like there are bigger issues here that are going to become more evident in the future. Sadly, he could have done with a better education, but he is so old now, chances are he won't go learn on his own. Best case scenario, your boyfriend is just a little slow and gets offended easily. Worst case scenario, your boyfriend is actually a neo-Nazi and one of those that consider Mediterranean Europeans as non-whites. You know him better than me, so you do you. Why are Americans so hung up on race? Google was race means and then show him. What you said is not offensive. In your shoes, I would find what he said offensive. There are some people in America who will never consider you white, despite the fact that you are light-skinned and of European origin. Some Americans have a very weird idea of what makes a person white. They talk about ethnicity as if that's a shade of skin color, rather than a cultural identity. Oh, he's ethnic, meaning to them some shade of not white. It's embarrassing how ignorant people can be. What you said wasn't offensive, it was probably made by some rich white woman. Facts aren't offensive. Sincerely. A unoffended, rich white woman. Your boyfriend is dumb. Sorry. If you identify as white, he can't just tell you you're not white. WTF. He's ignorant about the history and ethnicity of Europeans. Aside from that though, My concern is what offended his delicate little white man ego to hear you mention the whiteness of a wealthy person you were talking about. I'd really dig deep into that. Why is it offensive to mention the skin color of a white person you were talking about? What bothered him? Then I'd dig deep into his aversion to accepting that you are white, identify as white. This is also concerning, and elitist or something. Both of these things combined lead me to think he's got some not great ideas on race and race relations. I'd be concerned. His taking offense and trying to dictate your ancestry with his ignorant concepts has racist undertones for sure. A group of people think that Spanish aren't white, along with some other Mediterranean countries. I didn't like how you said the foundation was created by a wealthy white woman. That's also what my mom is. Lol. Everyone knows wealthy white women are the most oppressed demographic known to mankind. What a baby. I am Cuban of Spaniard descent. No native blood in me. European from both sides. Even though I am white, even paler in complexion than a lot of my white friends, I have noticed that I am not considered white in the USA while friends that I have in Canada and in Europe do consider me white. Some Americans have even referred to me as being brown, even though I am very pale. From my understanding, this often happens to Italians and Greeks as well. Hell, at some point in history Irish people weren't considered white either. To answer your question, I don't really see anything offensive about what you said. Wow, your boyfriend is dumber than a bag of rocks, for real lol. And like, you were just stating facts. There's nothing inherently wrong with being a white woman or wealthy, and I think there's quite a lot to unpack from his response to this statement. There's even more to unpack from his statement about what he thinks about you, and your race and heritage, most of which are just plain incorrect lol. But it still stands that he clearly views you differently because you are not from the same place as him. He sounds like he's alluding to xenophobia, and racist views, which is not great lol. At all. Also, he is too damn old to be that stupid and ignorant. I'm not sure how invested you are with him, but there are so many red flags here. You may want to think about moving on. Your boyfriend managed to pick up several correct definitions and then apply them in such a way that it makes them completely incorrect. Hispanic. Adjective meaning related to a Spanish-speaking country. People from Spain, Cuba, Puerto Rico, etc. are Hispanic. It is not an ethnicity. In the US it's often used synonymously with Latin, but this isn't accurate. Latin, Latino, Latina, Latino, or Latinx, an ethnic background describing someone from Latin America. Brazilians, Nicaraguans, Mexicans are Latin. Spanish people are not. Hispanic is a ethnicity or a culture. There are white Hispanics, black Hispanics, and even Asian Hispanics. Sounds like HES a triggered little boy, to be honest. No, what you said isn't offensive. Also, Hispanic isn't a race, it's an ethnicity. There should be something rubbing you the wrong way about this conversation. OMG, haha, you are not Hispanic. He is an idiot. Even if you aren't white, I am also slightly confused. That shouldn't matter. Unless you said it in a condescending tone, then you're good. It's no different than me, a white woman, saying, Obama is a black president. It's descriptive and not spoken in an offensive manner. He just needs to grow up because he seems to be racist. It's not offensive, what you said. You were using descriptive words to best put who this woman is into context. Weird he got offended. White is a race. Hispanic is an ethnicity. You can literally be both. Maybe he feels that you are judging white women. Was there some other context meant by, she is a wealthy white woman? Were you just mentioning her skin color? Maybe he is meaning. Why does it matter what color her skin is? Often in our society, I have noticed that we refer to people by their skin color to describe them, but that doesn't mean we mean anything by. Maybe because you are pale-skinned, but not European like his mom and him, that you are not in the category of white. But I feel that he kind of looked too deep into it, like you were being unkind, but it doesn't sound like you were. You yourself think of yourself as a white person, but maybe he was just upset because his mom is wealthy and white, and so he thinks you may look down on him and his mom. White people do not get triggered if you call them white. If they do, they've got bigger things to worry about and are just deflecting. I would have felt uncomfortable too when you mentioned the race of the foundation's founder. Why does it matter what the color of her skin was? Was that an important detail for your explanation? Were you linking someone's behavior to their race? That's called racism. That. Or it was irrelevant. These days, whenever someone mentions that a person has white skin, it's always as a negative thing, never ever positive. So you can't excuse him for getting defensive. Also, I hate to break it to you, but he's gotten you confused with a Mexican. Hispanic equals those regions in the world where people speak Spanish. Spanish and Spanish people come from Spain, which is located in Europe. If Europeans are considered white, then you are white. Regardless, your boyfriend is racist. In one of your comments you mentioned how he viewed Hispanics as lesser. I think he categorizes Hispanic and Latinx as the same thing. They can be the same for some people, but these two things are not the same for you since you speak Spanish, thus making you Hispanic, but you are not from Latin America, thus not making you Latinx. I am assuming that he believes Latinx people are lesser, which is undeniably racist. What you said is not offensive. What is offensive is what you are choosing to gloss over. In this day and age, as a biracial, 24 male, using race in a conversation always sparks something no matter the situation, whether it be a joke or even factual statement, but all you can do is explain yourself. You aren't a bad person for talking a certain way, but now you just have to be careful about everything, sadly lol. Whitest. Technically not white person ever. Mostly Spaniard. Also American. I get called Mexican and told I'm just ashamed of my heritage if I protest being called Mexican. Go, America, am I right? You both fucked up here. You didn't need to add the gender of the benefactor. It was completely irrelevant unless you're looking for some woke points, and your boyfriend doubled down. Is that you, Hilaria? I mean, what even is white? There's not much you can do in this situation. Most Spanish people are white. It seems he's just pig-headed and ignorant. What this is him being racist and being uncomfortable with you calling out white people, whether you intended to or not. I'm white. Turkish. I will call out white people all the time when they are being racist or privileged and unaware of that privilege. I have no idea if that's what you were intending, but I think it's important to call out things as we see them, and being white, as you are, doesn't mean you side with white people all the time. I have no idea what the context was, but coupled with him arguing with you about your identity, aside, WTF, says he was uncomfortable with what he perceived, a non-white person, you, calling out a white person, and taking it as an attack on white people, him, his mom. This dude's got issues with race. What kind of retard thinks Spaniards aren't white? Is he really in his 30s and doesn't know the difference between Latinos and Europeans? Yikes, he's real special.